Hello everyone, welcome back. Hope you all are doing great. Today in this video, we will talk about Cisco operating system. Many of you know Cisco has 5 types of major operating system. Number 1 is IOS, Inter-Network Operating System, which is classical operating system designed for small to medium-sized networks, and it can handle limited number of traffic. This operating system is mainly designed for basic routing. You can configure routing protocols like OSPF, sometimes BGP, right? For the switching, you can configure VLAN, you can configure HTTP protocol, Ether channel. Means for a small network or medium size network. Sometimes we are also using it in enterprises, but it provides limited speed as well. Sometimes 100 Mbps, sometimes 1 gig, right? The second type of operating system is iOS XE, which is designed for medium size to large enterprise network. And this operating system is designed to handle huge number of traffic, right? For advanced routings. And in the enterprises, mostly we are using iOS XE operating system, which also supports automation features, right? Like we can configure XE iOS XE operating system through a script, right? You will find the Linux command line interface. We'll talk more about this operating system in this video. The third operating system is iOS XR, which is designed for service provider network. Generally, we are using it in the service provider network for, again, advanced routing. Fourth operating system is Nexus operating system. This operating system is designed for data center devices, right, which provides high speed, better reliability. And the last one, the fifth type of operating system, the fifth operating system is the most important one, the SDN software. Operating system is what? Operating system is nothing but the software only, right? The software which we runs on hardware to manage it, to control it, right? Through operating system, you can control the routing path, you can control the switching protocols, right? So in today's time, the most important operating system, Cisco operating system, is SDN, controller based software. But what I told you, iOS is the classical operating system, the most important operating system for network engineer. You cannot learn directly the modern softwares like vManage or DNA Center or Epic Controller. You can't. You have to go through iOS only. If you have good command, good understanding of iOS, you can understand the modern technologies very easily. So this is our agenda of this video. Now, without wasting our time, let's start. So guys, what I told you, operating system is nothing but software which we runs on router hardware. It can be your router, it can be switch, it can be firewall, any networking devices, any hardware, to control it, to control the hardware, to manage the hardware. What I told you, the first operating system is iOS, the classical operating system. iOS stands for Inter-Network Operating System. Classical Cisco OS that runs on most older routers and layer 2, layer 3 switches. Yes, older devices. Now, on the modern hardware, we are not running iOS. This is for older routers. Even in today's time, many times you will find these kinds of devices, hardware, where iOS is running in the enterprise as well. So you cannot ignore it, and even it is very important to learn the modern operating system or their software. See, what we are going to learn properly in the operating system, the most important thing which I would like to discuss over here with you in the operating system is how we are managing these operating system nowadays. For an example, iOS, right? Many of you know that how to manage iOS through CLI, through SSH, right? Through SSH, how to access it and how to configure it. For an example, you need to configure OSPF, through CLI, how to configure it. But, iOS operating system can be managed by Ansible as well. Ansible is an automation tool. So we are using Ansible as well to manage the iOS. And if I will talk about the modern management of iOS operating system, that is going to be your Ansible, right? So we'll discuss which kind of tool we are using to manage different types of operating system, right? For iOS, as I told you, Ansible. For iOS XE, which kind of modern tools we are using for Nexus devices, which kind of modern tool we are using to manage, to configure, to access, to remove any configuration, to read the configuration, right? How to gather the log, which kind of tools we are using to configure, manage, or to gather some informations like your logs or to read the running configuration. So the classical operating system is iOS. All the operating systems are based on iOS. If I will talk about the modern softwares like your vManage in the SD-WAN or DNA Center in the SDXS or Epic Controller in the data center ACI, all are designed based on iOS operating system, right? But in XC or XR or in the Nexus or in the modern software, in the controller based software, you will find the Linux interface as well, which is not possible in the iOS. That means that is the additional features, right? So in those operating system we have added some additional feature, but guys, the core concept is exactly same, right? Core concept is iOS. Done. So here I have mentioned this very clearly. You can see very CLI based and straightforward configuration. It's very easy even to learn, to practice. Even if you are not network engineer, just planning to become a network engineer, you can learn it and you can start practicing in the packet tracer, right, which is available at free of cost. Even by the way, to learn the modern technology as well, whatever tools are required, everything is available at free of cost on the internet. But through Python we cannot configure router in the packet tracer. You need another tool, right? GNS3, or even in the GNS3 it is not possible. You have to upload your GNS3 over VM. The most simple one is EVNG. You can use EVNG, but you can practice. So if I will talk about the configuration, so iOS configuration is straightforward. Runs on branch routers, a small enterprise switches in the LAN. In a small company, you will always use hardware where you will run iOS operating system. For an example, in the LAN device, you must have heard about 2900 series switches. And these are the LAN switches. And which operating system runs there? iOS operating system, right? Easy, simple, straightforward. Used for a small networks, for branch routers. For an example, you have a small branch somewhere in Delhi, or you are planning to deploy one new branch in your existing network, so you can use the iOS operating system for router as well as for the switch, right? So you need single network engineer who will manage both types of devices, your router WAN device as well as your switch, because same operating system is running, right? This is the benefit. If you are running single operating system, single engineer is sufficient. If you are going to deploy, let's say, XR router, you need a service provider engineer to manage that, right? Normal iOS engineer cannot manage the XR router. Done. Let me take you to the next page. Here are some platform of Cisco which runs iOS operating system, Internet Network operating system. Example, as I told you, 2900 series switch, 3900 switch router, 2960 switch. And here is one example. A company with 2 to 3 routers and a few switches using static routing or maybe EIGRP or OSPF manually configure, right? Like a small site, a small network with few routers and few switches. So if few routers are there and few switches are there, that means we can manage it manually. We can configure it manually, right? We don't need automation tool. We don't need to automate the configuration, right? We can do it manually. Maybe you need to advertise few routes in the OSPF 10, 20, 30, 50, right? So traffic is limited if my size of network is small. So your iOS operating system is the best. If you learn basic CCNA, then in the CCNA also you are going to learn the CLI based iOS devices configuration. By the way, today's CCNA is the modern CCNA, right? We have some part of virtualization, wireless, security, automation, right? But there are many topics of routing and switching, right? Routing and switching. So you always configure or practice those all things through CLI. Even when I am teaching CCNA, students are performing first lab on the iOS operating system only, right? First of all, you need good hands-on on the iOS, then only you can understand any other operating system, right? So your practice will begin from iOS operating system in the CCNA. Next operating system is the iOS XE operating system, which is the extended edition of iOS, or you can say the modern version of iOS operating system. Again, both are designed for enterprise only. iOS was for a small branch office, and XE is designed for large network. Even here you will find the Linux interface. So what is iOS XE? Inter Network Operating System Extended Edition. Extended edition, modern version of your iOS, but built on Linux. This operating system is based on Linux. Linux is, open standard operating system. If you need to design one operating system, you can take the reference Linux as a reference, right? You can modify the Linux operating system according to your requirement. So means your base operating system is based on Linux OS. So similarly, iOS XE is Linux based operating system. This operating system is modular and support APIs. See, the modern management configuration, we can configure through APIs. We can manage it through SD access, means through DNA center. Which device? iOS XE. Can I manage iOS through DNA center? No. iOS can be managed through Ansible, hardly. Then even your iOS device will not support in SD-WAN. In SD-WAN, you need iOS XE only if you want to manage your WAN devices. If you have lots of WAN edge devices and you want to manage it through vManage, through the controller, right? You want to distribute the route through vSmart, you need iOS XE operating system. iOS not support SD-WAN. So that's why I'm saying the modern version of iOS built on Linux, and this is a modular and support APIs, good for automation. We can automate most of the task in iOS XE, which is not possible in iOS. The next thing is this operating system is enterprise grade router and switches, runs on newer hardwares, newer routers, right? The latest routers, more powerful hardwares like Cisco ISR 4000 and Catalyst 9000. You must have heard about 93003 switch in the LAN device, right? In the LAN network. And how we are managing that? We are managing those devices through DNA center only, right? By the way, name is changed. Nowadays we are saying Catalyst center to that digital network architecture, but the concept is same. So we can manage these routers devices through the controller, right? So we can say iOS XE is an modern version of iOS which support automation, scripting, We can manage this operating system through controllers. Controllers like your DNA center. Right? Now let me take you to the next slide. And here you can see SD-WAN enabled router. IOS-XE support SD-WAN. We can use this operating system, the hardware which support this operating system in SD-WAN. Support automation. We can configure IOS-XE through netconf, restconf with these kinds of protocols. So IOS-XE device can be managed through these modern protocols. These are management protocols. Netconf, restconf are management protocol, the modern management protocol. It is similar like your SSH, similar like your telnet, right? Then software upgrades with less downtime. Even sometimes downtime is not required. After that, better for security and programmability. Some same IS feel when it's come to configure or manage IOS-XE, feeling is going to be similar like your iOS. Command is even going to be same, right? You will enable OSPF on IOS-XE, similar like you enable OSPF on iOS operating system, right? Most of the configurations are same, so that's why same IOS feel, but you get modern features, the additional features. See, the additional features is added from the iOS. So additional modern features like automation, streaming, telemetry. Nowadays we are not using SNMP, right? SNMP is the old. Nowadays we are using the streaming telemetry for network monitoring. So IOS-XE support that. It support REST APIs. This is the future of enterprise router, IOS-XE. Then the future of enterprise network. Example, a company with 20 plus branches using Cisco SD-WAN. Company with 20 plus branches using SD-WAN and want to automate config, backup and monitoring. They will use IOS-XE operating system, not the iOS operating system here. Right? If you want to manage your devices automatically, you want to monitor your network automatically, you have to use IOS-XE operating system, not the iOS operating system. Okay. Then companies using SD-WAN uses ISR router with IOS-XE operating system. Every time, most of the time, you will find IOS-XE operating system in the network, in the enterprise network. So it supports SD-WAN as well. In SD-WAN, you will find this router IOS-XE. Even if you have the older hardware and you are planning to shift your infrastructure to SD-WAN, just you need to change the software. You don't need to change the hardware. Otherwise, guys, there will be huge loss, right? Because many companies already has hardware, lots of hardware, right? Is it possible to replace all the hardware? Not possible. So we don't need to replace the hardware. Just we need to replace the operating system. If we want to manage our existing infrastructure through SD-WAN, you need to purchase the license software. That's it. Okay. So IOS-XE is nothing but the base is same iOS, but some additional feature is added over here. It is designed based on Linux operating system. Automation feature is added. It can be managed through REST API. It can be configured through protocols like netconf, restconf. That's why in the enterprises we are using IOS-XE operating system. Then the next operating system, the most important operating system for service provider network is iOS XR. This is iOS extended release, Inter-Network Operating System extended release, built for service providers. Very large network. Network size is very large, means huge number of traffics are there, right? We need to manage huge number of traffic, huge routings, multiple routing protocols on single router. In those scenario, you will use iOS XR. And if you are using iOS XR router, you need a service provider engineer who can manage it. If you have knowledge of iOS or IOS-XE, Then also you cannot manage the XR router. Here we need service provider training. You should have good knowledge of MPLS, you should have good knowledge of VRF, segment routing, right? If you know the segment routing, if you have good command on segment routing, you can manage it very easily. So in simple word, we can say ISXR is designed for service provider network, and who will manage this operating system? Service provider engineer, who will be expert in segment routing, MPLS, VRF in the modern technologies, right? So built for service providers, very large network based on microkernel Linux operating system. Again, this operating system IOS XR is designed based on microkernel Linux operating system. So this is also Linux based operating system designed for massive routing, right? To handle the huge routes, huge traffic. More stable for always on, right? Your devices will be running 24/7, weeks, months, years, right? For always on and high availability networks. This is also modular. Modular means what? We can restart one specific part, right? We don't need to reboot the complete hardware, the complete operating system. Modular, you can restart. You can restart one process without rebooting the device. If you need to restart any one particular service, you can do that without rebooting the device, right? So IOS XR is a very powerful operating system provided by Cisco for service provider networks. Company like your Airtel, Jio, like these service provider companies uses this operating system. Then this operating system runs on ASR router, ASR 9000 router, NCS router, right? CSR router. CSR router, you must have heard about the CSR router in the service provider network. Support thousands of BGP peers and routes. See, 1000 BGP peers means it can have 1000 BGP neighbor. That is not possible on your iOS router. Even not possible on your iOS XE router. A telecom operator managing internet routing for an entire city or a state or country, handling millions of users. And then the next operating system is for dedicated for data center. Nexus operating system is designed for data center, not for enterprise, for the branches, for the data center, not for the service provider, right? So this Nexus operating system is a special operating system designed for Cisco Nexus switches, means your spine and leaf architecture, mostly used in data center network, designed for high bandwidth, low latency and virtualization, right? In the data center, we are using the virtualization technology. This is dedicated to data center for spine and leaf devices, which provides high bandwidth, low latency and support virtualization technology. Support advanced features like VXLAN, fabric path, powerful APIs integration, right? Integrates with SDN controllers. We can manage it through SDN controller. The logic behind SDN is decoupling of data plane and control plane, right? Means we have few control plane, lots of data plane. Control plane is the main brain. That is the SDN. So Nexus operating system can be integrated with SDN controller. It can be managed through SDN controller without any issue. Optimized for modern data center, big storage network. In the data center, generally we are storing so many data. Nexus operating system is designed to manage big storage network for cloud setup. So who will use this operating system? Companies like your Facebook, your Google, Amazon, Zomato, using Nexus 9K switch, 9000 switches to connect hundreds of server in a private data center, right? When we need to connect huge number of servers, right? When we have huge number of data, right? Big storage network, our Nexus operating system is perfect for those kind of scenario, and this is the reason why we are using it in the data center. Everywhere in data center you will find Nexus operating system only. Then the most important software for modern networking, for today's networking, is SDN, software defined networking. This is also one operating system software. SDN controller means a smart network brain. A smart network brain, where you will have few controllers and lots of data plane. Few control plane, lots of data plane. Brain means controller is separated from the body, means from the device. That is the logic behind SDN, right? Separation of control plane and data plane. Control plane is the brain and data plane is the body, which is your device. You manage multiple devices from one central point, right? We have discussed this SDN in many video, in the SD-WAN, in the SD-access, right? If you are the if you are my student of SD-access, you know this very well. Even if you are the SD-WAN student, you know this very well. We have learned these all things, right? So can manage multiple devices from one central point, and they control and automate the network. You know why SDN is so popular? Because of automation only. Automation, because future of networking is AI and automation, right? The integration of AI in the network and automation, how we can automate the things like reading your configuration or pushing your configuration or collecting the logs from your data. These all things can be automated. Okay, the most important operating system is SDN software for today's time, for today's network. So they don't forward the traffic. Control plane don't forward the traffic. They tells hardware how to forward it, right? So on the hardware in the SDN, which operating system you are going to install? SDN software, Praful. Very simple. So they will not forward your WAN edge devices, are not going to, are just going to forward the traffic. Your WAN edge devices are just going to forward the traffic. My main software, the SDN software, is not designed to forward the traffic user data. No. This operating system software is designed to tell the hardware how to forward the data, where to forward the data. Like in SD-WAN, you know, two WAN edge devices are going to establish IPsec for data plane. But for control plane, they will have OMP session with VA Smart. Correct? So VA Smart is using the SDN based software, SDN based operating system, right? So here we have the three controllers like Cisco DNA Center controller, Cisco vManage, and Cisco ACI. Four different types of network. Here I can also include the segment routing, right, in the SDN part. But see, DNA Center for campus LAN. If you want to manage your LAN devices, which operating system you will use? Which operating system you will use? You will use DNA Center, right? And on the sides, in the LAN network, which operating system can be used? iOS, XE can be used, iOS, XR can be used, or Nexus operating system can be used, right, in the LAN. Then for the vManage, again you can see SD-WAN. For SD-WAN, to manage the WAN network, WAN edge devices, we have this controller, vManage controller. And to manage the data center, we have Epic controller, right? You have Epic controller. After that, here you can see one example is there, an IT admin managing 150 branch offices can push a firewall rule or routing update to all the routers from one single dashboard. That is only possible just because of SDN operating system, SDN software, right? Now here are some example like where you will use iOS operating system in a small office, right? In the iOS you have to manually configure the device, right? It can handle low traffic, like traffic is limited in the iOS operating system. iOS XE is designed for medium businesses, growing SD-WAN ready network. iOS XR is designed for large ISP network, service provider network, right? Use BGP, MPLS, stability needed. Nexus operating system for data center in case of VMs, in case of virtualization, in case of high traffic and virtual infra, in case of cloud setup, right? And the SDN controller, the smart campus or branch network for the automation, to automate the configuration, to push the configuration on multiple devices simultaneously. We have SDN controllers, right? So this is the most important operating system for today's time. And hope guys, these 5 types of operating system is clear to you. Now if you have any question, if you need more video, detailed video, if you have detailed explanation on any specific operating system, you can let me know in the comment section. Even if you are looking for video on any other topic, you can share your question in the comment section. Definitely I will make one video on that. Now the last request and humble request to you is, if you have learned something from this video, then please hit on like button and don't forget to share your feedback in the comment section. Guys, if you will not share your feedback in the comment section, it will be very difficult for me to make videos every day. But I want to teach you all the modern technologies over here on this YouTube channel, which is only possible if you are going to share your feedback. So how was the video? Have you learned something or not? Please share in the comment section. If you don't want to write, then just type yes in the comment section. Once you will type yes, I will get to know that video was helpful for you. If you can write, just type helpful. If you will type helpful, it will motivate me to work hard to make more videos. Thank you. That's all for today. We'll meet soon in the next video. Till then, stay safe. Bye bye guys.